Lord, and speak through them. Take our minds and think with them. Take our hearts and set them on fire for Jesus Christ's sake. Amen. Be seated, please. Our friendships are wonderful things, aren't they? They're usually born out of common experiences and needs with people who share our own values, our own way of thinking about things. Sometimes a tragic event will bring people together and make them friends. Sometimes it's just the fact that their children play together and they attend the same PTA meeting. We have friends, Susan and I have friends with whom we have spent much quality time over the years. We celebrate birthdays and holidays together. We've vacationed together, beach weeks and so forth. We've become surrogate parents for their children and they for ours. We've supported one another in crises. Sometimes we have that kind of friendship in which we haven't seen someone for months or even years, and yet when we get together, we pick up on a conversation as if we had just left it yesterday. We pick up exactly where we left off. We can talk about things, any kind of things, no matter how personal or even painful. Our fears and dreams, our failures and aspirations are laid out for the other to see. There's a sort of unconditional acceptance with one another, but there's also the freedom to critique one another as well. And I think that that is what is happening in today's gospel lesson, which we have just heard, where we are eavesdropping on a personal conversation. We are overhearing an argumentative exchange between two intimate friends, Peter and Jesus. Jesus has just shared with the disciples that to accomplish God's purposes, he must undergo suffering and be killed, and on the third day rise. He's very, very clear about it. And Peter is aghast at the idea and takes him aside. This speaks to me of the great intimacy between them, that he would even deign to do this. But I can see Peter chastising Jesus, saying, "Are you crazy, Jesus? Telling people you're going to die is no way to recruit new disciples. You've got to put a different spin on this. Your PR is all wrong on this issue." And I can see the other disciples beginning to wonder about it as well. Should they be following Jesus at this point? Maybe Peter has a point. When Jesus sees the disciples wavering, vacillating in their resolve, wondering if they should turn away from Jesus, he is assertive and forceful with his friend and says, "Get out of my way, Satan. Anyone who is serious about coming with me must do it my way. You must deny yourself, deny the life the way you know it, and pick up your cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and the gospel will save it." Jesus did not choose his friends from a subset of perfect people. He chose people like Peter and the disciples, people like you and like me. And this would not be the last time that Peter would let down his friend, disappoint Jesus. After Jesus had been arrested and Peter would deny him before the authorities 3 different times. But I'm grateful for this particular exchange between the two friends because it leads to a clear declaration of Jesus' understanding about how we come to our real life. It is through sacrifice. It is by picking up the cross in our life, just as Jesus picked up the cross in his life. Now, I understand and am quite in awe that this is paradoxical, hard to understand. It's a part of our life of faith that really makes little sense on human terms. Instead of promising that all will go well if we follow him, that there will be peace and good times, and that our lives will be marked by bliss and well-being, Jesus is saying exactly the opposite. If we follow him, we are going to run into all kinds of trouble on a human level. There will be a cross to take up. In fact, we may come into danger. But after all is over and done with, by following the Christ in life, in following a life of sacrifice, of the cross, we will have saved our true lives. That is the path that Sarah Flowers Adams took. I don't know if you know that name. Perhaps not. She was born in Harlow, England on February 22nd, 1805. In her younger days, Sarah had studied very hard to be an actress. That was her goal in life. That was her primary desire, to be on the stage. And so she worked hard toward that goal, and she played Lady Macbeth in London's Richmond Theatre and got good reviews. But she had to say goodbye to that life on the stage when her health failed. Always of marginal health, she lived only to the age of 43 years and died of consumption. But she also became known for her literary work and her hymnody. Taking up the cross of promoting the gospel of Christ, she wrote many wonderful religious poems. One day she was asked by her pastor, the Reverend William Fox, if she and her sister Eliza, who was a very accomplished musician, if they could help in the compilation of a new hymnal for the congregation. The two sisters became very busy with the project and contributed 13 texts, that is 13 sets of lyrics, and 62 new tunes to the hymnal. Perhaps the most famous of these became known as Nearer, My God, to Thee, which is a meditation on the story of Jacob's ladder from Genesis 28. The first verse you'll know, and it goes like this: Nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer to Thee, even though it takes a cross that raiseth me, still all my song shall be, nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer, my God, to Thee, nearer to Thee. Well, that's our goal, isn't it? Get nearer to God, be near to God. That's what we want. That's what we're trying to accomplish through our faith. There's a lot of good theology in our hymns if we would only read them as we're singing them. Don't just sing the hymns, think about the theology of the verse as well. This hymn, Nearer, My God, to Thee, does not appear in our hymnal. I think that's a shame. Nonetheless, it's enjoyed great popularity in many Christian traditions over the years and can be found in our hymnal supplement, Lift Every Voice and Sing Too. When President William McKinley was assassinated in 1901, it is said that this hymn was his favorite. It was played at his funeral and other memorial services, popularizing it for many Americans. There's also an account in which it is said that when the great steamship liner, the Titanic, went down in the North Atlantic in 1912, killing 1,500 people, that the ship's orchestra of 8 musicians played this hymn on the deck until the very end. Sarah Flowers Adams had a different life than the one she had earlier projected for herself. When it became clear that she would never have the stamina to be a stage actress, she nonetheless made her mark by embracing the cross and by writing about that cross for the edification of Christians everywhere. Sarah, frail, invalid, regained her own life and blessed many by losing herself in God. In his relationship with Jesus, Peter would eventually do the same. Eventually, Peter, Cephas in Greek, translated as the rock, would become the rock, the foundation on which Jesus would build his church. Peter also took up his cross. Like the Apostle Paul, he was instrumental in the ferment and growth of the first century church. And ultimately, like Jesus, he was found to be too dangerous by the Roman government. He was martyred by being hung on a cross during the Neronian persecution. But unlike Jesus, he was hung upside down. Despite his martyrdom, we have the sense that he found his true life in service to the gospel, a life of bringing others to God and by sharing the story of Jesus. He discovered the amazing paradox of faith, that if we hang on to our present life and the life that we project for ourselves as humans, we will lose the essence of life. But if we sacrifice self for the God life that Jesus came to initiate, we will save it. Very soon now, we will meet our new Moses, our new rector. He is going to lead us to a God place, a place of holy ground, a place where we can become nearer to God and to his Spirit. Let us, as we contemplate today's gospel and as we sing our hymns, attempt to come nearer, my God, to thee. Amen.